on the radio at WILI AM 1400 or 95.3 FM. Or we might be on YouTube because our shows are posted there on the WILI channel along with all the afternoon shows. So you can catch our guests anytime on your phone or computer at home. The whole idea is to get our guests and their information to you in as many ways as possible. We have another busy show today. Coming up for the second and third part of the show, we're going to take a look at the Arts Center East in Vernon for their monthly update. We also have a poet, a publisher, Karen Warinsky. She's doing a new series of poetry readings at the Vanilla Bean in Pomfret. She's also done a series for many years up at Roseland, up in Woodstock. So we're going to talk about poetry and getting published later in the show. But right now I'm going to offer a very interesting story for you. If you're a digital person, if you have a computer or a telephone or anything with technology and you're having some technology questions, there's a new service that's just opened in Mansfield based at the library. It's called the Digital Navigators. And we have two people very involved in this program, which is pretty new right now. It just started. They have a couple of years to help serve people in the area. And I'm really happy to have them here today to share the good news and show you how to sign up. So sitting right next to me, I'm very happy to have Paul Velazquez. He's the Digital Access Navigator, one of two that they have, who works out of the library. Paul, it's good to see you again and have you in the studio.
Thank you for having us here.
You bet. And also next to Paul, we have Caitlin Epling. She's a systems librarian. Caitlin, welcome to the studio. It's nice to have you here, too.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So why don't we start out with a simple definition so people get an idea right away of the variety of ways this can help them at home or with their personal computer use. So what is a digital navigator, and how have you landed in Mansfield to serve our community?
So a digital navigator is somebody who works with people to just kind of eliminate barriers that they may be having as far as accessing online resources. So we can work with people to teach and guide through the use of specific apps or the use of specific devices. If you're having trouble with a phone or a laptop or a computer, can't find settings, something got messed up and you can't use it anymore, those are all things that you could call us and we could help with.
Wow.
Also, if you have a goal of wanting to become more proficient with something like Microsoft Office, or you want to be able to set up an email or use social media, you can call us about any of those things too. It's a really wide umbrella of things that we cover.
That's great, because once the word gets out, I think you're going to be busy.
I hope so.
Because everybody can do better with what they have, and a lot of people are still struggling with accessing and managing social media, to maybe controlling access in a better way. You know, whole issues of parents and kind of monitoring in a positive way how their kids are using it. People looking at something that my wife Rita came to Paul with had to do with some of the security software programs that are out there. So it's a kind of everyday life kind of thing.
Yeah, and really any issue, big or small, is something you can call us with, and we can at least make an attempt to go through it and work it out with you.
Yeah. So Caitlin, maybe you can kind of enlarge the story about the library as a whole and how this is kind of fitting into the larger role that the library plays.
So basically the library's always been a place to get information.
Of course.
And we've noticed throughout the years, especially after COVID, a lot of people were coming in with questions about how to use their specific devices or how to get online to, fill out a form or create an email account or basically do a lot of stuff. And that was taking up a lot of staff time, and that's why we decided to go and start a program like this, because now we can have some individualized one-on-one training sessions with people.
Yeah, it's the best kind.
Yeah.
And the good news, the source of this funding is from the American Recovery Act, which across the country is helping with many aspects of infrastructure, at least to help it function during COVID and then do better afterwards, obviously, right? Yeah. Paul, maybe you can mention the kind of work that you did in the past that kind of made you want to be a navigator, in terms of your background, and maybe share some of the most common things that people are doing that are kind of making their own problems worse. And they don't know it yet, but they're real simple things and they just don't know it yet.
Yeah. What I did, one of the things that I did before I started here at Mansfield was I volunteered at Hartford with Literacy Volunteers of Greater Hartford. They ran, standard literacy programs, but at the time that I volunteered there, they had just expanded their computer labs. So when I volunteered there, I asked specifically to head up the computer labs and to help tutor people who are coming in looking to expand their digital skills. So really very similar to what I'm doing here. As far as problems that people are having that they might be making worse, I would say the first thing you should do is familiarize yourself with your device's settings, whether it's a laptop iPad, Chromebook, anything. You can solve most issues that you have, and I've already in my appointments I've already solved minor issues that people really didn't know that they could solve with a simple settings fix. For example, one issue if you're using a laptop and you are using a trackpad, or you have difficulty otherwise double clicking quickly.
Yes.
There's a setting in all Windows laptops that you can reduce the speed that's required for a double click to register to make it a lot easier for most devices. So little things like that you don't realize could make your device use a lot easier, and it's a little less frustrating.
And every once in a while, we have to go through the whole update cycle. They're always trying to improve the software or making it safer. But I know sometimes when they do updates, they change settings. And sometimes you don't know about it until afterwards.
That's true.
And it creates little mystical experiences like, I didn't make this happen, but here it is, right?
It's another reason to familiarize yourself with the settings on your laptop.
Right.
Or
what the defaults are, or what, like what's normal. Something for parents, too, maybe. There's a lot of kids still doing schoolwork at home. Mm-hmm. Not like during COVID at the worst time, but they're still using it a lot. And how can people figure out the broadband issues of the quality of the connection from the cable company that they have no control over, and their in-house wireless system that could be a nightmare, that could really interfere with the signal coming in, but it looks like it's the company's fault, right?
Yeah, those definitely can be issues. For starters, I would say, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
You can call your provider, and you can find out from them what your speeds should be, and you can also find out independently with, I think, websites like internetspeedtest.com, something like that, and they're similar, where you can run and see what speeds you're actually getting. Now, when you do get internet service and you get it at an advertised speed, your actual speeds will never really match those speeds. So you can't say that I have gigabit internet and you're not getting that full speed and think that that's a problem. That's a normal thing. But you can be sure that your speed is what it's supposed to be. You can call a provider and talk to a technician, and they can help you figure out is your speed where it's supposed to be, or is there maybe something wrong? Do you have some interference going on in your home? Things like that. Your router placement can be an issue if you're doing Wi-Fi too close to a corner on one side of your house. It won't, maybe the signal degrades to the other side of the house. Something
Absolutely.
like that.
Or sometimes if it's an old style that has an antenna, the angle of the damn antenna, vertical, horizontal. I've had that at my house at one point. That made a huge difference that way.
The other thing you can do if you call a service provider is that you can request, sometimes, they won't always honor this, but you can request new equipment. I did this myself last year. We used Spectrum. My service was choppy, and I knew that my physical equipment in the house was getting pretty old. So I just brought it up with the technician. I said, this is the equipment that I'm running right now. It's all on a label on the equipment itself.
Yeah.
Do you guys have anything newer you can send? And they did. Since then, I've had no issues with my internet. The speed is the same as it's always been, but it's much more reliable now than it was before.
Yeah, it's more stable. Yeah. Well, Caitlin, can you talk more about how this works and maybe the logistics of how people can sign up? Besides a phone call, what could they learn more on the website?
Oh, yeah. So people can send emails to the Digital Navigators at digitalnavigators@mansfieldct.org, and they can schedule an appointment online. They can also call or text, and that phone number is on the Mansfield Public Library's website, mansfieldpubliclibraryct.org.
Not too bad.
I actually have the phone number right here.
You do
also.
have it.
It's
there you go.
959-444-1305.
Okay.
And you can call or text that number, and we'll respond.
Yeah. So for people that are looking at, maybe they want to upgrade their computer, it's tax time. So you get into the whole automated software, and they start and they get lost. Is there something where you could help them with that in terms of their business use, in terms of any kind of personal use of it, just for more than entertainment or fun?
We're certainly not tax experts, so I don't know about helping people through their taxes. But if you're looking to use that tax money for new devices, that is something we can help with. We can meet with you and demonstrate the use of various devices. What's a Chromebook versus a laptop, and what do they feel like to use? Which one is going to be better for you?
Yeah.
So that you're not wasting your money on a device that you're ultimately not going to. You're going to find that it doesn't suit your needs. So we can make sure that you do spend the money in the right place at least.
Right. Or sometimes you can buy more of something than you need, depending on how much you need to do what you want to do.
Yep.
Right. Like if you're not a big gamer, maybe the video card doesn't have to be the high-end, fastest
You probably
thing
have
possible,
much shorter requirements, yeah.
Yeah. So something that people talk about a lot, is email security and getting scammed. And, the number one way that a lot of bad people get away with it is just because we click. We're rushing. We're not careful enough. It looks pretty good, and we just go with it. And that one click is the door, right? So we recently had a conversation with Paul about thinking through buying security software versus relying on your browser and your operating system upgrades to be enough because they've done a lot of work themselves. So I don't want to recommend any brands or purchases, but thinking this through, I'm sure a lot of people would like to do better with their email. Mm-hmm. And they want to, they hear about protection, VPNs, and all these things because, the universe is out to get you. But sometimes you might have so much protection that your system is slow and you don't realize it's not a bad connection. You're overloading your own computer, right?
Yeah, so it's called bloatware. It's when you have unnecessary applications on your computer. Yeah. And for most everyday users, Windows Defender is enough, and it's kind of recommended by the experts to be the baseline of what you need on a computer. The real thing that you want to focus on for internet safety is just user knowledge. So which emails are safe to open, which ones are not. Just because something looks like it's from a familiar name, maybe check that address very carefully because it may be slightly different. And be careful about opening attachments and things like that.
Right. You can always check the address of the sender, and it might look like it's a certain way, but if you really check the address, it could be an incredibly it's a strange combination of numbers and letters that are meant to be untraceable because it's really someone looking, to get you. Well, Caitlin, while I have you here, are there other things about the library people could benefit by, or services or use of media, other parts of your work that can help the public learn more about what's there at the library?
Oh, yeah. At the library, we actually have free hotspots that you can check out for a few weeks. We have Chromebooks that you can check out. We also have a tool library. We have cake pans. We have lawn games, board games. So we have a variety of different media that you can check out at the library, and all of that is free. You just need a library card. So.
Well, when people come by, should they bring their computer? Is this something where somebody who maybe has a transportation problem, can it be over the phone? What are some of those assistive technology needs you might help?
So we do prefer to meet people at the Mansfield Public Library or at one of its two express locations, one of which is at the Nash Zimmer Transportation Center, which is a pretty convenient place to get to. Yeah. If you're having an issue with a specific device, we do recommend that we meet you in person with that device so we can kind of see and get our hands on it. But there are issues also that we can cover over the phone or just via text as far as like information gathering and that kind of thing. So, contact us first, let us know what the issue is, and we'll go through it and decide what the best solution is.
Well, this is really great news. I hope you all, in the area can certainly benefit from this. Now, this is a larger regional coverage area, and your folks are based in the library. What is your hopeful, your service range, or where people can, can benefit from the service in terms of your range of limits?
So we're focused on Mansfield residents, but you don't need to be a Mansfield resident or have a library card to walk in and ask about us at the desk or even call us or email us ahead of time. We'll serve anybody from any town. As long as you can get to Mansfield to meet with us, that would be the only stipulation.
That's great. Well, thank you for the good work you're doing behind the scenes every day. And I hope you all take advantage. This is a great program. Again, the Digital Navigators at the Mansfield Library. There's a lot of information there. It could do a lot to help you with your everyday computer use in ways you may not even realize. Things may be simpler than you think. So thanks again.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to take a short break and come back and take a look at the Arts Center East in Vernon. Don't go away. Okay, we're back live on the Homefront. Very happy to have you with us again. For the last part of the show this week, we're going to talk to Karen Warinsky on the phone. She lives in Woodstock, but she's putting together another series of poetry readings at the Vanilla Bean in Pomfret. It's a series that's been going on for a while now, and they're going to kick it off again for the new year. So we'll talk about poetry, and this is a great kind of kind of a follow-up to the conversation that we're going to have now with Liz Bologna, the executive director at the Arts Center East in Vernon. Every once in a while we have Liz down for an update. They're very busy throughout the year with lots of events. It's nice to have you back in the studio, Liz.
Yeah, I'm glad I could finally get back in here.
Indeed. I know. I had to do it once on the phone, but it's always good. There's lots of things going on up there.
Yeah, we like to stay busy.
Yes. And in fact, there's quite a few things to cover while we have some time, but there's one thing that's already underway that started a few days ago. It's a fiber art exhibit. Maybe that could be your lead off?
Yeah, the fiber art exhibit. I hate to choose favorites. I really do, because I love all the artwork and all the artists that we get to showcase at the Art Center. But fiber art, there is something I find particularly pleasing and particularly exciting about it. And it could be that we do it in February when things are getting a little dark and then are a little gray. And so in particular, the fiber art exhibit is incredibly colorful. It's really, really pleasing. It sort of happened this funny way that last year we had this like really nice green motif happening, and then this year we have this really nice blue motif happening. So I don't think these fiber artists are necessarily coordinating with each other, but something is in the air that they all have these sort of blue pieces. But it's really beautiful. We have felting, quilting, there are sculptures, there's embroidery work, there are dresses this year and jackets.
Nice.
And I have to say, I hate to choose favorites, but this is the second year we've shown quilts by a woman named Hiroko Fukawa, and her quilts are so geometric and they are so exact and they're incredibly pleasing. Like if you have like a busy brain, like this is a really nice thing to take a minute and look at. I find it incredibly calming. I really, really love it.
Something else, I mean, you can't touch these things, but the tactile nature of the material and the aspect of the hand.
Oh, yeah. You can see the stitches. You can see the layers in the quilts. It's so much work. And the only thing that I wish, I'm going to make a note of this for next year. The only thing I wish we would do with this exhibit is include on the label somewhere approximately how many hours they would say it took to make the particular piece, because I can only imagine it is upwards of hundreds of hours.
That's a really cool idea, like with a wood turner.
Yes.
Who does woodwork, That's an interesting angle that helps people think about, well, this is a really fine piece of art, This is not something, that I'm buying mass-produced in a factory somewhere in Indonesia.
And with the quilting, you think about the actual stitching of it, but there's so much that has to happen first in planning and laying it all out and getting to the point where you can then stitch it. It's really mind-blowing. We have... Speaking of the fiber art exhibit, the woman who chose the awards for it, her name is Tim Natar, and she is coming this coming Saturday in the afternoon. She's doing a trunk show. So she's going to bring several of her quilts, and she's going to talk about how she pieces them together and, things in her life that inspired them and the techniques that she used. And I'm really excited because hers in particular, again, are these incredibly colorful pieces. And so, my questions are, how do you find these fabrics? Like, do you get them printed? Are you ordering them special? And then when you have, I have so many questions for her.
So that's a real nice kind of a show and tell, actually.
Yeah.
This Saturday would be the 10th, I guess, in the afternoon. Is that when that is?
Yes, 2 o'clock at the Art Center. Yep.
Yeah, and this show goes to March 2nd. Now, the Art Center East is at 799 Hartford Turnpike in Vernon. And the website is artcentereast.org. So anything that we're talking about today, it's all there for you on the website. Yep. You have the series coming back with poetry. You said something's happening in a couple of weeks with Peggy Diche.
Yes, she has. So we have another poetry reading with her. We do roughly quarterly. She keeps on top of the schedule much better than I do.
Yeah.
But she has poets coming back to the Art Center February 18th. And I believe some of them are current town poet laureates this time. Some are recently... dethroned is not the word for it, but
their term passed.
Their term has passed. There we are. Recent poet laureates from a few different towns in the area, and then the other thing that she does is she always features a student from Rockville High School that also gets to read, because that program is an incredible creative writing program at that high school with Vicki Nordland, who has really built that from the ground up. I'm a proud former student of Vicki Nordland's.
Oh, there you go. So it's really going full cycle for you, isn't
truly.
it?
I'm such a townie when it comes to the Vernon community.
She's stoking the fires here.
You know.
That's great. And, you know, it's nice to see young people get up there because it could be life-changing.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, either their experience means whatever it is, just the experience itself, the perception of an audience.
And it's also nice, too, that you get, you know, you have the published, established poets, and you have the newer emerging poets, and then you have like a really brand new, just trying it out student poet, and you get to sort of not compare their work, but you get to sort of see the progression of where the ideas could go.
That's right.
Yeah.
And the process. That's right. So that's called Poetry Rocks. It's their 6th year, and that's going to be happening February 18th. Now, something that we'll talk about in a month from now is something that ties into puppetry. And here in our community, there are people that love big puppets in this town. If you go to the Boombox Parade, certain events, people are on stilts walking around here. Puppets are big here. And you have something that's going to be amazing that tries to connect puppetry and theater and Marc Chagall. Can you give us a teaser on that?
Yes, and I can
Please.
truly take no credit for it.
Okay.
But Allison Doyle is an MFA student at UConn in puppetry, and we connected through various channels, but she has conceptualized a puppetry show based on the life and the artwork of Marc Chagall. So there are puppet recreations of some of his pieces, and the best way I can describe it is that you get to see how this artwork came together and the ways in which his life kind of blew up and it all fell apart, and then how it comes together again. It's really, I don't know how people do these things sometimes. And I'm just excited because it is a theatrical visual medium based on visual artwork. So it's multi-mediums that get to talk to each other and play with each other. And I really like when we can do these things that collaborate in that way.
Yeah, and with Marc Chagall, you get this imagery of things floating away, right? The whole floating thing.
Oh, yeah.
Zero gravity art. There you go. So that's coming up later in March. Something else that might help some people now, if you are an artist and you have supplies or things around the house, you're cleaning out things, there's a tag sale coming up at the end of April for the Art Center East, but they're asking people to plan ahead now. Can you mention that? And maybe we'll get you some stuff.
Yes, so if you are doing any kind of New Year's clean out, as I think many of us do, we will take any, gently used or unused art supplies. That includes frames or embroidery hoops, yarn that you don't know what to do with, even if it's fabric scraps that you no longer have use for. We'll take buttons, really anything that can be repurposed or used as an art supply. We're happy to add that into our tag sale, and then that acts as a fundraiser for the Art Center. All of that,
exactly.
All the funding that all the funds that we get from that just go back into, we're going to schedule more classes, we're going to have more events, that kind of thing. And it has happened before that. Actually, with the fiber art exhibit last year, there was a woman who had a piece and she brought it in, and it had tons of buttons all over it. And I said, "Oh my gosh, how did you collect all these buttons?" She goes, "I found them at your tag sale."
Fantastic.
So we get to see a real life cycle of art supplies.
That's art for you.
Yep.
Something out of left field, you never know.
Yeah, it was really delightful.
That's awesome. So all this stuff is on the website, and I want to mention one more thing we haven't spent too much time on is they have classes throughout the year and their cycles. There's a couple of classes starting up, I think, in a week or so. Do you remember any of those?
Yes, we are. We have an online pastel class, so you can participate from anywhere, which is really nice. That she's developed a really nice following and a community of artists that take that class. So that will be starting the end of February. We have a watercolor class that's going to start up in April. I'm working on an acrylics class, and then we have a few one-offs. So we have it's almost full, but we have a succulent terrarium class where you get to make your own little succulent garden, which I think is really sweet. We're going to have a paper quilling class coming up, and another clay platter class, and another sort of like a paint night, but it's a sketch night. So it'll be ink sketching and watercolor to finish it, to make it a little more colorful. But it's like a paint night, but a little bit harder. So if you've done a paint night and you're kind of burnt out on those, this is like the next step.
A bit more skill, a bit more focus, right?
Yep.
And The image of the cactus, the succulents, they're everywhere. They're invading.
Yeah, but it's
Everywhere
another
you
one
go.
of those like very pleasing things to look at. If you have a busy brain,
We have
you
a lot
have
of
this
those around the
nice
house.
organized. Yeah.
We have a cactus garden outside, and they just grow.
And they're easy to maintain, which
they're
is my
happy.
thing. I am not a plant person. I have unfortunately killed a few in my days, but succulents I can handle.
You can be redeemed.
Yeah.
There you go.
Pay for my past sins.
All right. It's always great to have Liz Bologna here from the Art Center East. Again, artcentereast.org is the website. Lots of good things to do. Only a few minutes from here. We try to cover the arts in all the corners, Putnam in the northeast, Vernon, Wellington, heading down towards Norwich, of course in Willimantic. So I wish you a great season ahead, Liz, and we'll have you back later in March about the show with the puppets in Chagall.
Absolutely.
And any new courses as well, okay?
Yeah.
Always good to see you.
Thanks so much.
Okay. Okay, we'll take a short break and come back and talk about poetry with Karen Warinsky. Here's a tune for you, a classic about Boston. Enjoy. Hey, we're back live on the Homefront today. My name is John Murphy. Very happy to share some radio and some YouTube time with you. We're going to focus and continue our discussion on the arts and focus on poetry and publishing today with author Karen Warinsky. She's a lifelong writer and poet. She's been publishing widely since 2011. She currently organizes poetry readings with writers from across the region at Roseland Park in Woodstock, Connecticut. She's been doing that for a while. The series is called Poets at Large. I think it's been going on for about 5 years. And we have Karen with us today because in February she's opening up another season at the Vanilla Bean in Pomfret. And we have Karen on the phone to join us. That's why I'm that's why I'm wearing my Captain Video helmet here with the audio. Karen, welcome aboard. It's nice to have you on the radio today.
Well, thanks for inviting me. I'm very happy to share our information with the public.
You bet. I know we've talked before, and this month in February, the 24th, is the first of a series. So maybe you could start us out with your hopes for the first one, and who's going to be with us and what their hopes are for the evening.
Okay. Well, we have 4 that we're going to do this spring. They're at the Vanilla Bean, and
Right.
They are all on the last Saturday night of the month, so that's easy for people to remember. They go from 7 p.m. to 9, and there is an open mic segment. But we have featured readers, of course, and I try to get people who are well-known or have some renown or at least are published. And in February, around here, you never know what the weather's going to be. So
Yeah.
I decided to do a so-called homegrown evening of people who definitely could make it to the Bean no matter what the weather. So these are more local poets. However, 2 of them are poet laureates of their communities. Nancy Weiss is the poet laureate of Pomfret, and a man named Steve Vayu, who has a book out, is the new poet laureate of Thompson, Connecticut. And then I'll be reading with them. And my accolades include I was a former finalist of the Montreal International Poetry Contest, and I'm a Best of the Net nominee for 2023. So it's kind of a powerhouse show. We do have about 4 or 5 people already signed up for the open mic. So if anybody just, thinks that's a good fit for them and wants to come on, it has to be limited to about 8 to 10 people, so they should contact me right away.
Right.
We're going to do a special winter blues price on the Vanilla Bean show on the 24th, so admission is $10, but all the other evenings are $15. And I know that's caused a little bit of a stir in the poetry community because a lot of times these events are free. But we want to not pass the hat. We want to be able to split that money between the featured readers. And a lot of people come from Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey. Even I've had people come from there. So we want to give them gas money and a little stipend.
That's a beautiful thing to do because it all comes around because you've traveled around too. You've done readings in New York City and all over Massachusetts yourself. And, a small amount really makes a difference for someone who's coming to share their work. People just have to reframe it a little bit. And if they think a little more carefully, it makes total sense. I know you mentioned before, because we were chatting earlier today, that the series you do at Roseland Cottage, that has some funding. So those are able to be free as they always have been. So that's a different kind of a funding base, right?
Right. I'm trying to keep those free, although we have had some shrinkage in our sponsorship. And this is funny to me because this is our 5th year out there, and they're very well attended. We get 35 to 50 people at every reading that we do out there. So I would like to hope that maybe we can get more sponsors to come out of the woodwork this year. I guess my question would be, what else is going on in Woodstock? Why don't you come out and support us? Would be good. And I think to that end, joining the Wyndham Arts organization and making us a bona fide nonprofit, a 501c3,
right,
should help with that. But we do have some tried and true sponsors, and I thank them very much. And they're always listed on the posters and on our press releases. I'm not going to name this year's yet because we're still gathering people.
I see.
But that's the process that's happening right now.
Well, these are great efforts, and I want to be sure to use our program here as we help all kinds of arts groups to get the word out. If you're going to go monthly, we'll try to give you a chance. Maybe some of the writers can come on the phone like you are today, or if they're local, they could come on down with a little planning. I've had other writers on, and people are really getting interested again. Small bookstores are in trouble, but they're coming back a little bit. I'm seeing, when I look around, more publishing than ever in some ways, but it's all digital, right?
Well, there are small presses who,
Yep.
it's not all digital. I've found several small presses that will print your book. Of course, they get their share.
Of course,
and then
sure.
It's up to the author, the poet, to do the publicity and to get yourself out there. But there are a lot of venues in Massachusetts and Connecticut where you can read. There are online venues, too. People, once the pandemic happened, the beginning of it, and everything had to go on Zoom, a lot of people have continued those forums. And I think it's great because personally, I met poets from all around the country and even internationally. So I think there's nothing like in person, but it widens up your world a little bit when you can go on Zoom and do a poetry reading that way also. So I don't see why we have to get rid of it. Let's dovetail. Let's keep both,
Maybe the best of both worlds for once, right?
I hope so. I think so.
Now, something else that Karen was telling me about today is for March. There's a special program she's doing focusing, it's a women's writing workshop. You want to talk about that and how people can get involved? It's in the afternoon on the 16th of March.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about that. So, this will be my fourth one of these to host, and I'm always searching for a comfortable venue. This is going to be at Arts Center East.
Yeah.
Did I get that right? Arts Center East. I've got too many arts things. Arts Center East in Vernon. And they have a very nice setup there. They have a classroom for us to use. I like to hold it to 8 to 10 women. I think that allows for the most interaction. And the way that I work it is everybody brings 2 or 3 pieces of work they are working on or feel like are finished. They bring copies to share. They read their work to us, and then we write our comments and discuss. It's very supportive. It's not a critique. We might put some gentle suggestions on the page, but generally speaking, we're telling them what we like about it. It gives everybody a chance to talk about the issue that they're writing about, and there are a lot of adult topics that people need to write about, particularly women. And then we do writing exercises. So I like a thing called a 5-word challenge where they all get the same 5 words, and they get 5 minutes to create a piece from that.
Wow.
I do a giveaway, too, where I have a lot of poetry books, not just mine, but others. And so we'll do kind of a fun activity and do some book giveaways. I also am planning to do an ekphrastic challenge this time, too, which is where you look at a piece of art or a photograph, and then you create a piece from that. So it sounds like a lot to do in 2 hours, but I think we can make that happen. It's $35 to attend, and if anyone's interested, they can contact me on my Gmail, which is karen.warinsky@gmail.com, or go on the Poets at Large group page on Facebook, and you can find me there and contact me that way.
Well, it's a good coincidence that we're having you on the phone now, because sitting next to me a few minutes ago was Liz Bologna from the Arts Center East. She was talking about their programs and events, and this is a perfect example of how you're finding a home there. She's given a lot of artists a chance to show their work and to do trainings there. So it's nice, for you to move around the region as well once in a while, too.
Well, and I think like Putnam and Woodstock are kind of remote, for, I mean, you can gather people that just live around here, but
Yeah.
I had a lady come from the other side of Connecticut last time, and it's a long drive. So Vernon is a little more central.
Yep.
And so I'm hoping that will encourage a new group of people to show up, and some of my tried and true, of course, are going to come. But yeah, it'll be different and interesting, and I provide some snacks and water. And so if you're at all interested in that, the deadline to sign up is March 8th, and contact me for details. I'm happy to get back to you.
It's been nice in the last couple of years to see other writers and groups trying to get people out more and more often to share work. We have a wonderful series here in Wyndham, the Julio de Burgos series, right there in downtown Willimantic area. And folks, you know, I think you've been very light on yourself, Karen. You are such an accomplished writer, and your background, when I had a chance to look at your publishing history, it's very impressive, and people have really acknowledged the quality of your work. And I wanted to ask about you and some of your incredible writing while we have you. I know you're here really talking about these sessions, but your own work has been amazing. And you've had 3 collections of poetry, and the one that's just come out recently is called Dining with War. And with everything happening in our political system here, you know, whatever people's politics are, the system is out of norm. And when you look at the world, there's so much incredible violence. People are not learning the lessons. So, it's kind of sad to say you couldn't have picked a better time for a book with this title. But Dining with War certainly brings it home. And could you share the idea of the book and why this is a time you wanted to share those poems?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Yeah, I just what happens to me when I write is I'll just sit down and whatever floats in goes onto the keyboard, and I don't often know what I'm going to do with it, where I'll submit the work. A lot of times I just file things away. And so one day I was looking through a lot of these unpublished pieces, and I realized, oh my gosh, you know, there's a real thread here. And the reason I wrote some of them is it had occurred to me that our children are grown now, so we sometimes take our meal in front of the TV and watch the news. And that may not be the healthiest thing to do anymore, because it's a constant, like you say, a barrage of violence of different types. And it made me think, oh my gosh, you know, how many times have I done this, and how callous can a person become eventually from doing such a thing? And so that's where the title comes from. And then besides political events and events in our world, I realized, oh, you know what? A lot of times there have been little family squabbles, little problems. I have some stories about dates that have gone wrong, you know, over meals. And so
Sure.
I've wound in some humorous things as well as some of the more tragic and then the very important global things that are happening. And I'm proud of the book. It came out last June, and I'm publicizing it and doing readings wherever I can, because I think it's a topic that people should think about. And we do think about war, but how it just, like you say, it's been normalized in our American life, and it shouldn't be.
That's so true. And, you know, the thing about the situation today that's a little different, I've been around long enough to see 5 wars over the Middle East, over the same piece of land, basically. But if you don't stay up with the news today, it's moving so fast that things are getting compromised because of the speed. Not just catching up with the news, but the news is running ahead of the news, isn't it? Sometimes people are finding out about things that have been going on, and they didn't know about it.
Yeah, I think this latest bit of business in Gaza, I mean, of course, we know some things that have gone on, but I certainly wasn't aware of exactly how egregious the conditions for the people living in that part of the world were. And
right.
Of course, you know, it's a long history. It's a deep
right.
history, as with any conflict. And, you know, we have to be cognizant of what's good for everyone involved, and I understand that. But, yeah, I think we do get shaken up to our core occasionally by these things. And, you know, frankly, we have a lot of violence right here on our domestic soil of different types. I mean, every day there's something in the news. So I guess my question when I was thinking about putting this together is what has happened over my lifetime, different events, different neighbors I knew, different domestic situations, ex-husband, boss, et cetera, and how has that affected me, and has it affected me? So that's part of my question in this book.
Well, that one, again, is called Dining with War, and her previous books were Sunrise Ruby and Golden Autumn, from Human Error Publishing, and Dining with Wars from the Alien Buddha Press. So, Karen, I want to thank you for joining us today and for all the work you're doing to help other people share their writing and become better writers. That's a real power that people have that nobody can take away from you once you figure out your own. It's always yours.
Well, I think it's important for everyone to be able to express what's inside of them, and it's a healing process, and it's a political process, and I think both of those are very important.
Right. So once again, before we go again, we're talking with Karen Warinsky. It's Saturday, February 24th, 7 o'clock at the Vanilla Bean is the first of a series that'll go for a few months through May. And of course, later in the year, she'll be back talking about the season at Roseland Park in Woodstock. So I wish you a great season ahead, Karen, with good weather and great times, and we'll look forward to having you back to follow up for March and April.
Okay, and I hope we see you sometime, John, at one of our events.
I'll be sure to be out there. It'd be very nice to see you out there. It's a great spot. The Vanilla Bean's a good place to hang out, so we'll see you there.
Thank you.
Okay, right. Take care, Karen.
Bye-bye.
Okay, our time is just about flown by once again here. If you want to get involved in the show, the studio is always open to you. Just use email, john@humanartsmedia.com, and we'll see you next week at the same time. Until then, take care and keep the faith.